creating a report, if you will, with inline editing. So be able to see products within different price books, filter them down, and then actually edit them right then and there, almost kind of like Excel. And so we talked with Mort about this a little bit, and the level of customization to do this without one of our product partners, or what we call ISVs, and which is where we found Grid Buddy. That out of the box, Z actually spent about 30 minutes with the Grid Buddy team and built this embedded in our demo environment that we'll walk through today. So a little background of the use case of what we were trying to solve. You'll probably pick up on that as he goes through this, but there's no question. Z, feel free to take it.
Yeah. Do you guys have any questions before we go ahead and start?
I don't. GMT?
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right. So really what we've added is the Grid Buddy Connect package. So you have the package, you install it onto your Salesforce instance. So there's like a whole section under your admin setup workspace where you can see all of your, like, let's say App Exchange apps or packages that you have installed on your Salesforce instance. One of those packages would be Grid Buddy Connect. And you see Grid Buddy Connect on this tab here. It won't necessarily be called Grid Buddy Connect. That can be changed. But since this is just a trial org, it looks a little funky from the naming convention. So as we have, for example, our products, we have our mass update prices, all of these different types of objects that we have set up on our navigation, you can also have your Grid Buddy Connect extension as a tab for your price management team to go in and navigate. So once you're under your price management, you have all the different objects that you can reference on your navigation over here. And then once we bring in the list view of whichever object you select. So when we built this list view, we had selected the product object. It could be maybe the price book object. It really depends on what you want to see in that list view, but we went ahead and selected the product so that you can see the attributes within each of those products. So before we go into the attributes, you're able to create a new product. You can do a mass update. There's also a mass create. So there's different functionalities that can be incorporated if you want to go in and edit your product prices in the Salesforce instance directly. So let's say I open up one of these products. It'll show you all of the different price book entries that is related to that specific product. And now if you want to go in and, let's say, change, I don't know, the default price of that specific product first, you just double click, you make the changes, and let's say I want to just do $12, and then you hit save. And once that is saved, that will be reflected. As you can see here, it's been updated to $12. So if I go back to the price book, the same thing applies over here. You can make changes directly to the price book on this view without having to go to that price book view separately. However, I can go if you would like to. So if I click on standard price book, you're then able to go to the details of that specific price book and get out of that list view if you choose to. So really what you see here is a full list of all the different attributes and objects that you want to see in one full view. And you can make all those changes done like inline editing, and you can access those specific fields or objects directly from this view, however you wish to create it. So you can have multiple different views as well. One more thing I didn't touch on is that these are all from different types of objects. These are just test views. But if you, let's say, don't want to do product, you want to do, this is not relevant, but if you want to like have a list of all your leads, you can do that as well. So it really just depends on the different types of views that you want to have and create. And that's all going to be connected into the platform directly on Salesforce without having to leave it. And I think that's pretty much it. I don't know if I've missed anything, James, from when we reviewed this prior, if there's anything else that you think is worth mentioning.
The only thing I'll add, Z, is, Deepti and Charles, take the screens, or sorry, the fields you see here on the screen with a grain of salt and the products. So what we did here is we took the demo environment from the first demo, and we had about 15 products in there or so. And we just selected a couple of fields from the product and price book or price list object to just showcase some of the functionality. So what we're doing here, when Z edits the list price within a particular price book for a product, and everything you see there, it's actually updating that field within Salesforce. So there's no sort of integration you have to run to and from somewhere else when you make that update, like from GridBuddy to Salesforce. It's updating directly that Salesforce data. And any of the fields that you have within your price books or your products could be surfaced into this view. You'll probably recognize a few of them with PB compliance, ROHS from the spreadsheet you sent over. But we took a stab at just giving the idea of how you could list some of this out within kind of this, I guess, GridBuddy view and the ability to edit it. Does it make sense in terms of what that follow-up we had?
Yeah, I think so. So this would be if somebody wanted to do it one by one, say for a new product, and then from a mass standpoint, I see a mass update button. How would that work? And how does that compare to the mass update prices and the toolbar?
So
I see two mass updates.
you see two mass updates.
I see a mass update prices in the toolbar right next to GridBuddy Connect. And then I see a mass update underneath the list view for product object.
That was kind of the custom component we showed based on conversion factors, Charles, in the first demo. So that was something that Ankit built out custom. This would most likely replace that piece of functionality, doing it right here.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a leftover tab from our first demo.
Okay.
Oh, you're referring to this one over here. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, so you can do the mass update as well via this functionality. We can definitely go into this a little bit deeper in terms of what you can go in and update. I don't have the full answer to this, but we can bring in the GridBuddy team as well for them to go into the more technical aspect of mass updates, if you'd like.
Okay, I guess at a high level, would it be like maybe an update of an Excel file or an upload of an Excel file to do the mass update? And that's how we do it today. So I didn't know if it was that type of mass update, or if this is more, like if we wanted to increase a certain product family by 5%, would they do it here? That's kind of what I was curious about.
I believe so, Charles. You would do it here instead of Excel. You can always do an Excel or a CSV and upload it into Salesforce as an option. Unfortunately, Z and I aren't super experts in GridBuddy yet, so we can take that question back into how the mass update works within GridBuddy. But I'm pretty sure you wouldn't have to upload an Excel and do it that way. You should be able to just do it right here.
Yeah, and I just to add on to that, Charles. So the GridBuddy team is, very willing and eager to engage with you all, but we wanted to give you the opportunity to see this with us first, to see if you felt that it was even a, potential viable avenue forward before bringing them on and all of that, since you haven't been introduced. So we can set that up and they can go into as much detail around it as needed. And then the other thing that I want to say is, as far as bringing an Excel file in, part of our thinking of this was to try to have the best of both worlds, right? So that you're working within, a best-in-class solution of the Salesforce platform, right? Like we've talked about standardizing on, but also bringing in some of that feel and functionality of an Excel type, if you will, look and feel. And that's where we came up with thinking that this GridBuddy solution might be the kind of best of both worlds here.
Yeah, I think, part of the challenge for us is that, and this is a current process. I mentioned this to Mort yesterday when I talked to him, that, just because we follow a process today doesn't mean that it's necessarily the best process. But the process we follow today is an Excel file goes out to the product managers, and it's pretty easy for them to go through, relatively speaking, to go through their parts and make those adjustments one by one. So, in a normal year, they would go through and they would review the pricing for all of their products for the various list price sheets and distributor into stock pricing. And they would make the updates directly into that file, and then it would go back to the pricing team, and then the pricing team would review it for margin and what the price changes are, just to try to verify that there weren't any errors. That we're not losing money on anything. And then once approved by the pricing team, then they would just upload it into the system, just from the Excel. But again, that's how we do it today. And that's perfect. But we do have quick turn type things, and that's why I was asking the question. Like, we chose a specific product family or a product line, could we just apply like a 5%? And it looks like, based on what you had in the mass update function, it looks like that would be relatively easy to do. The pricing team would go through and say, increase this product family on all the price lists by 5% or whatever it is.
Yep.
And in terms of, I think you had asked about the viability of maybe using something like this. I think I'll need to regroup with Christine, and that's why this recording is important. Because I know that just in various conversations, I think even when we've had her on the phone for our calls, she's articulated that she was, hesitant to do third-party solutions and, any highly custom stuff. But we can share this with her and also discuss it and see what her thoughts are.
Cool.
What are your thoughts, Stevie?
Yeah, I think I'm exactly thinking that. Is that again, I wanted to learn a little more on this Grid Buddy. Is that something they have released recently, or it's been there with Salesforce apps from a long time? Or because it looks like we have not discussed this previously, it makes me feel that it's not that popular app.
So yeah, go ahead, James.
I'm looking, I don't know when they're created, DT. If you go on our app exchange, you can see some of the reviews, how many they've had. It's over, I think, 243 reviews of 4.89 rating out of 5. So it's pretty heavily used. Look, I personally, don't really have a horse in the race, if you will, for whether you go with Grid Buddy or not. I was impressed with the functionality. I haven't used it before. When I think about the custom work for some of these kind of spreadsheet-esque type editing to do within Salesforce, that's pretty custom to get that view and that functionality. And I was pretty impressed with Grid Buddy, at least the first time seeing it was for the work we're doing with you guys. I guess for what it's worth. We can look and see how long they've been around and full amount of customers they've had. Mark, maybe we can take that as a follow-up, but I do think it's a good tool for what it's worth for someone that, whether you go with it or not, my unbiased opinion, if you will.
It was also very
Makes sense.
easy.
Again,
it was also very easy to set up, DT. So like this view that you see here, I think James and we got on a call to set it up together, and I think it took us like 15 minutes without any guidance. So it's pretty straightforward in terms of getting it set up on Salesforce.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Again, I'm just thinking through like the customizations or any changes we may have to. Do we have to work with the Grid Buddy team directly? Is what I'm assuming. We have any issues?
Mark, you talked a bit about that, right?
Yeah, so the Grid Buddy team, Deepti, we've already discussed that with them. So they would provide a designated customer success manager as well as implementation support team to Littelfuse, right? So from an implementation standpoint, if you were to work with Menlo Pro, they would support and work in tandem to get it stood up and set up properly. And then an ongoing, right, throughout the duration of the contract, you would have dedicated customer success manager directly at GridBuddy.
Okay. And that's where it gets little like we are dealing with Salesforce as well as another GridBuddy customer engagement team, right? So
well, yeah, sort of. But so typically when we have ISV partners like this that we work with within our accounts, we work very closely, right, as an account team. And typically I can certainly speak for myself and my counterparts on my team. The ISV part, we still as Salesforce, right, own the overall relationship with our customers, and we include all of those ISV partners, right, in regular touch points. We effectively, I'm not going to say that we directly manage them because we don't, so I can't say that. But I will say, manage the overall, account relationship and support mechanism to you all, but they are offering GridBuddy themselves a dedicated resource to support your account specifically.
Yeah, and maybe I can speak on that a bit, Mark. So hey, Deepti, good to see you on a call again. So we implement these types of solutions all the time, and generally what happens is you will have little to no interaction with GridBuddy. You'll just be talking to Salesforce and Menlo Pro, and Menlo Pro will work with GridBuddy on the side in case we have any technical issues, right? So like Z was just saying, it takes 15 minutes to implement this, but you may need customizations. We know you have an SAP integration coming in. We know you also have this concept of like change history tracking. We do need the in-stock report for distributors. We want to make sure the entire requirement set, the masked updates is working properly. There may be a middleware solution needed to move data from SAP to Salesforce. So there's going to be more work outside of simply implementing GridBuddy to empower this solution. So realistically, you'll probably, maybe kind of talk to them one time and they sell you the licenses, but outside of that, you'll really only be working, with a partner like us or Salesforce, and that's it. So from a communication perspective and a relationship management perspective, hopefully I can give you some confidence that you won't have to juggle too many balls there, right? It's just Salesforce was a product company, and then a partner like ourselves who is your implementation company, and that's realistically it. So we do this kind of stuff all the time. These ISV partners kind of stay in the background and just provide technical support in case we just don't understand something in their package. Like, does that help answer your question a little bit, Deepti?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks for that, Mort. That was very well said. better than I said. So thank you.
No worries.
Nice job.
Yeah, because like ultimately, Mark, right? And this is what we talked about, right? This is a holistic approach, right? Like GridBuddy is one part of a requirement set. There's other things that wrap around GridBuddy that are going to provide tremendous value, help you sunset pros, allow you to do your ad hoc pricing updates without worrying about Excel files floating around and people may, having all the history tracking. When did I last change it? Who changed it? What was the percent change? What was the impact? Like, centralizing all of that in a single platform is going to be incredibly powerful. And I think, and I was talking to Charles yesterday, right? Just the ability of being able to generate these reports instantaneously, being able to get them out to distributors, and then just a platform it builds for future growth. I think GridBuddy becomes just one part of a broader empowerment strategy, which it sounds pretty cool. It sounds pretty awesome. But that was just me and Charles just rapping. So, we'll see what it actually turns into.
Yeah, Charles and Deepti, do you have any other questions or thoughts?
I don't right now. I think it's all about me going back to Christine and providing the information to her about the proposed solution. And so this is more just for my clarification. This is an alternative to what we discussed yesterday, which was a custom-built UI that you were proposing.
That's exactly it. And I think Mark was kind of leading off with that, and James was piling on, right? But You have the deck. We went and explored at a high level each one of your feature epics, and to build it, I was very transparent yesterday. I'll say it again in this call. It's a heavy lift. It's custom. Now, Salesforce does an incredible job with their Force.com platform, such that these customizations are not nearly as heavy as you see in the more like legacy systems. If it's like a .NET solution, you obviously don't want to try to maintain something like that, but you can maintain things in Salesforce very well, but you still have to maintain them. Changes could potentially require code updates, and if you don't have that skill set, that becomes kind of heavy. This is more of an off-the-shelf solution. So you're spot on, Charles. It's the solution I offered would be literally replacing GridBuddy and building it in your own org. Now, in fairness, that approach will give you more flexibility to make it little few centric. So let's be honest about that. GridBuddy is going to be restricted by its capabilities, whereas a custom solution is not restricted by that. But then the offset is the maintenance cost of it can be burdensome. It can be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Understood.
Yeah, but both options are still viable. We just wanted to present you with both and kind of the pros and cons, as Mort just did, of both of those.
Well, thank you.
I know we have a couple follow-ups here. We'll certainly get back on the mass updates piece, and Charles, we'll begin working on that with a GridBuddy team in advance of Christine coming back next week, I think you said. But you and I can just communicate and find if we want to jump on a call and have them join and go through any of those specific questions or additional demonstrations. And then we'll follow up on some of the background of GridBuddy, right? How many customers they have and how long they've been, doing this, et cetera. So other than that, I think, Charles, maybe you and I can work offline to find time next week once Christine's back to follow up on these items.
Okay, that sounds great.
Very good. Any other final thoughts or questions, team?
Go Pack, go.
Oh no, Mort, you didn't just say that. I'm a Lions fan.
I know. Mark, I wanted to make sure you heard that. I said it loud enough that you heard it. I'm good.
That was even recorded, Mort. That was recorded. All right. Well, again, thanks, Charles and Deepti, for your time, as always. And we'll be in touch at some point next week. If anything else comes up, of course, reach out.
Sure. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.